Hello and welcome to a brand new Lost Ark video. It is finally here, the long-awaited Ultimate Sharpshooter PVE guide. In this guide I will be covering absolutely everything you need to know about Sharpshooter in PVE, how to build it, which engravings to use in each tier as you progress, and plenty more. It is a lengthy video and there will be timestamps under the video you can use to skip the parts you're not interested in watching, but I do recommend you watch everything. There are also links in the description where you will find written Sharpshooter PVE guides for people who prefer reading the guides instead of watching video guides. If you guys have any questions regarding Sharpshooter or Lost Ark in general, feel free to come to my live stream on Twitch and ask them in chat. We have a small community there, so I am able to read and answer everyone's questions. Now sit back and enjoy the video. First, we are starting with the leveling process, assuming you went with Sharpshooter as your main and first character you will need to hit level 50. If you are already level 50 or you power pass the Sharpshooter to use it as an alt, you can skip this part. Leveling gets you a good feel for the class and allows you to practice your rotation in a way and get familiar with all of the skills. You don't really need to focus on anything else other than getting level 50 as fast as possible. There are only 3 important skills that you will want to level to 10 and use during your leveling, and these are Charge Shot, Rapid Shot and Arrow Shower. These 3 will give you enough AoE damage to clear mobs fast, while also having decent single target damage for elite mobs and bosses. After hitting level 50, first thing you want to do is finish your Awakening quest that will unlock your hardest hitting level 50 skill, Snipe. After finishing your Handle story and hitting 460 item level, you will want to do your second Awakening quest, as the Golden Eye is the awakening you use in both PvE and PvP, so it's one of the priorities to get. While you are in tier 1, your main goal is to progress as fast as possible to next tier. There is more than enough upgrade materials available for you to progress fast, and with the recent nerfs to Guardian raids and Abyss dungeons, this will even more speed up the process of progressing. While you are progressing in tier 1, you will want to focus on obtaining as many skill point potions and runes as possible. Bleed, Galewind and Welt are the 3 runes you want to go for, and as for skill points, you want to aim to get at least 296 skill points. The most optimal Sharpshooter PvE raid build requires 312 skill points, which you will be able to obtain through tier 2. As you clear Vern and Rohandel Abyss dungeons, you will gain materials to craft new gear set and accessories that have guaranteed to drop one of the 2 class engravings. For the purple gear set, there is only one available to craft, which is Seraphic Oath set, which gives you attack speed and additional damage for full set. As for legendary yellow set, you will want to craft the Boisterous Elemental set. Engravings in tier 1 don't really matter that much, plus you won't even be able to have more than 2 level 3 engravings. Abyss dungeons, you can potentially get one of the class engravings to level 3. I prefer Deathstrike, but Loyal Companion also works. Well, you will want to add Hitmaster as your combat engraving. Your main focus is having full crit stats on all of your accessories, with specialization on the necklace. Don't forget to do island quests for engraving books, as it is important to have at least blue engravings books activated before tier 3. As you reach tier 2, your focus still stays the same, progress fast to tier 3. There will be times where you will feel stuck, as tier 2 doesn't give as many upgrade materials as tier 1 did, but there are always ways to speed it up a little bit, and having a tiny bit of luck for honing will speed it up even more. While you are in this stuck period, you want to focus on reaching 312 skill points. If you are doing field bosses and adventure islands every day, you should already have quite a few runes available. The 3 main ones still stay the same: Bleed, Welt and Galewind. In tier 2, you will be able to obtain gems, but you shouldn't put too much time and waste silver getting perfect stats. My recommendation is to stop at level 5 gems and don't fuse them into level 6. Reroll stats few times until you get something for the skill you use, but don't waste too much silver. Eventually, when you get to tier 3, you will want to sell tier 2 gems on auction house. Your main priority still stays on having full crit on your accessories and specialization on your necklace. With Abyss dungeon materials, you will want to craft purple gear set Marvelous Earth, and eventually a legendary yellow set, Mute Guardian, as you want combat resource recovery and crit damage on Sharpshooter. Keep in mind that there is no need to go for perfect engravings, as content is very easy to clear, especially with recent nerfs where you don't even get one shot anymore from failing mechanics in Guardian raids and Abyss dungeons. The real endgame starts when you hit tier 3. When you reach tier 3, you should have 312 skill points, both class engraving books, at least on blue, Grudge, Hitmaster, Keen Blunt weapon engravings also on blue books, and Bleed, Purple Welt and Purple Galewind runes available. If you don't, you can still focus on getting this fixed before real tier 3 endgame starts. Next part of the video will be structured in a different way. Sharpshooter only has 2 skill builds that you will use all the time, and it won't change until certain balance patch decides to nerf or buff certain skills. You have your main AoE focus build for Chaos Dungeons and Cube, and your main single target DPS build for raids and bosses. Starting off with AoE build, you only need 292 skill points for most optimal AoE build. Your 4 key skills are Rapid Shot, Arrow Shower, Blade Storm and Charge Shot, while you also use Claymore Mine and DM42 Bomb as filler skills when others are on cooldown. And you also add 2 movement skills like Moving Slash and Stalker for easier grouping up of the mobs and luring them into one pile. The main goal is to group up all the mobs and then use whichever of your kill skills you want. There is no real rotation or order in which you use skills, and both Chaos Dungeons and Cube are fairly easy to complete. The written guide for Cube and Chaos Dungeon is linked in the description. Raid single target build is what you will use 90% of the time. Snipe is your bread and butter when it comes to highest damage. You need to make sure you always hit with the perfect zone for maximum damage. Arrow Wave is another high damage dealing skill. Charge Shot is your main damage dealing skill with Stagger. You are using Fast Fire Tripod for instant release once you reach first stage. Sharpshooter is your second stagger skill that deals medium to high damage. Moving Slash is your main reposition skill that is also used for farming Identity Gauge on a low cooldown with Silver Master Tripod. Atomic Arrow is used with Amplified Damage Tripod for a party-wide synergy buff that you can constantly reapply on cooldown. It also provides a decent amount of stagger. Deadly Slash is your only counter skill that also charges Identity Gauge in melee range. Blade Storm is your melee skill that farms and charges Identity Gauge. Goldeneye is the preferred awakening skill, as it is almost instant and provides high amount of damage compared to Fenrir's Messenger, which is a charge skill. Runes are very important at tier 3 endgame, as they give unique buffs to a skill you decide to put them on. Your rune setup is as follows: Welt on Blade Storm and Deadly Slash, as these are the 2 skills you use for farming Identity Gauge and gaining extra percentage. With each hit will fill up identity meters super fast. Galewind on Snipe and Arrow Wave is important, as both of these skills root you into the place for the duration of the cast time, and having faster cast time on both of them means you spend less time being stuck casting and more time DPSing and moving around. Overwhelm on Charge Shot and Sharpshooter is important, as these 2 skills are your main stagger skills, so putting even extra percentage stagger damage on them makes most sense, as they are instant cast and Sharpshooter as a class has a fairly weak stagger capabilities. Rage on Moving Slash is important, as it is a skill you use for staying mobile and dodging, but you will mostly use it to farm Identity Gauge, as it has low cooldown, which means you have higher chance of triggering rune effect, which is increased attack and move speed for 6 seconds. Finally, Bleed goes well with Atomic Arrow, as it is another low cooldown skill that you will want to use every time it's off cooldown. In tier 1 and tier 2, your engraving setup won't matter too much and it will always change, but in tier 3 you need to start working on it ASAP. Abyss dungeons in tier 3 do not have a guarantee to drop accessories with class engravings anymore, so you need to rely on extreme luck to find accessories with perfect stats and engravings for your class, or simply buy them from the auction house. Sharpshooter is a class that uses both class engravings simultaneously, and they benefit him greatly. The most optimal starter engraving setup in tier 3 is as follows. Death Strike level 3 will give you 40% extra damage on bosses for 8 seconds while replenishing 50% of identity gauge on the use of the Last Rush identity skill. Loyal Companion level 3 will grant you 30% faster identity gauge recovery while in combat, while also adding a 14% damage buff to all of your skills for 7 seconds. Hitmaster level 1 will be the minimum you can pull off in early tier 3. It goes well with Sharpshooter, as all hard-hitting skills have no back or front attack effect, so you can attack as a sharpshooter from any angle. Your ultimate endgame post-Legion raid engraving setup is having 6 engravings on level 3. These are Death Strike, Loyal Companion, Hitmaster, Grudge, Keen Blunt Weapon, and Cursed Doll. Getting to this engraving setup will take a lot of time and a lot of gold, and you should focus on only one engraving at a time as new content is being released. Sharpshooter benefits from high crit rate and specialization for identity skill damage and recovery. With this, you will want to keep putting priority on crit as a main stat on all accessories and specialization as a secondary stat on a necklace. High crit chance goes well with Sharpshooter, as all hard-hitting skills have some sort of crit chance increase on hit, where once you get 50% crit chance as your stat, with these tripods you will have over 80% crit chance on all these hard-hitting skills, so combining these with Keen Blunt Weapon engraving to increase your crit damage is the most optimal way to set up. Ability Stone plays the biggest part in having 2 combat engravings on level 3. For Sharpshooter you should go with either Grudge and Keen Blunt Weapon, or Grudge and Hitmaster Ability Stone. Having Grudge at level 3 will be imperative for big damage, and if you combine Keen Blunt with high crit chance Sharpshooters naturally have, increased crit damage makes the most sense. If this ability stone is too expensive on auction house, you can try going for Hitmaster or even Cursed Doll paired with Grudge. In tier 3 you start prioritizing gems. For early tier 3 you will want to stack your level 5 and level 6 gems. Going for higher level gems isn't advisable if you are a free-to-play player in early stages on tier 3, as they won't give you big benefits. Better setup is having multiple level 5 and level 6 gems as to having 2 or 3 level 7 gems. This means that you will have multiple skills reap benefits rather than only 2 or 3 of them, as the difference is only 3% increase from level 6 to level 7. Priority when rerolling for stats is Snipe, Charge Shot, Arrow Wave, and Sharpshooter, both for damage and cooldown, while adding damage gems for Bladestorm, Last Rush, and Atomic Arrow as you're able to obtain them. Tripod levels are very much heavy RNG, and while it's something you could technically focus on, it will be hard and expensive to hit high tripod levels early on. You can have maximum of 18 tripods applied to your gear, which means you need to know which to prioritize. In the next clip I will briefly show you my alert settings for each tripod. You want to only focus the 18 important ones for the tripods that you use on your build. When it comes to cards, the best budget starter card set is Lost Wind Cliff set that gives you dark damage reduction for 2, 4 and 6 set while adding 7% crit chance increase on a 12-piece awakening. This card set can be grinded, and while it's time consuming, it is fairly easy to obtain. On the other hand, your ultimate endgame Legion raid card set is the Light of Salvation set, which gives even more dark damage reduction and converts and increases your damage to holy damage on 12, 18 and 30 awakening pieces. This is very hard to obtain and it will take you very long time as a free-to-play player to get any awakening pieces. It is by far the best card set for Legion raids as all bosses do dark damage and they are all weak to holy damage. Battle items are important in helping clear certain stagger checks and mechanics. You will always want to carry percentage health potions. I only use green ones in current early tier 3 as I'm confident in dodging attacks and not getting hit often. Next I like to carry awakening potions, where I only use them at the start of the fight to get identity meter to 100% and I can start with my burst rotation immediately without having to farm it first, which also gives me 50% meter back from Deathstrike engraving. Lastly, since Sharpshooter doesn't have high stagger skills, I like to supplement the lack of stagger with whirlwind bombs, which go well with the stagger runes I use on 2 higher stagger skills, Charge Shot and Sharpshooter. Fourth battle item slot is flexible, where I'm gonna use whatever I need extra for the boss I'm fighting. Whether it's flares for guardian raids, scarecrows for taunting bosses early and having free damage rotation without them moving, or anything else that I find useful. Before explaining the proper way to use your skill rotation on a boss, let me show you first how it looks like. Main Sharpshooter rotation consists of throwing everything in the span of 8 seconds while your damage buffs are applied. Of course you won't always have all the skills available off cooldown to use your identity skill Last Rush, but you should still aim to use 2 to 3 high damaging skills in those 8 seconds. You start off with Atomic Arrow, which after 2 seconds will apply 6% damage buff for all party members for 8 seconds. You follow up with activating your identity using Wings of Storm to apply 14% damage buff for 8 seconds from your loyal companion class engraving, and instantly following up with Last Rush, which applies the final 40% damage buff from Deathstrike class engraving. You'll want to use both of these identity skills in the span of 2 seconds, so all 3 damage buffs get applied at the same time, giving you 60% damage increase on a boss for 8 seconds. After all the buffs are applied, start off with Awakening for the first rotation into Snipe, then Charge Shot plus Sharpshooter skills combo, and finish off with Arrow Wave. You will get 50% identity gauge back, which means the next rotation is based on farming the meter to 100% before cooldown of all damage skills comes back. Order in which you use this isn't as important, but you will want to use Deadly Slash, Blade Storm and Moving Slash to get to 100% identity meter fast. In early stages for tier 3 there might be some downtime when you will have your identity meter full, but your skills will still be on cooldown. That's because you need high level tripods for cooldown and high level gems that decrease the cooldown for these skills. In the future, this rotation has no downtime and you simply alternate between farming the meter and DPSing. Sharpshooter using both class engravings enables players to choose from 2 different playstyles. Burst oriented playstyle that is reliant on identity farm and using all of your skills in a burst window, and the constant sustained damage over time playstyle that utilizes your Hawk to apply constant 40% damage buff over the full duration and doesn't require constant identity gauge farming. Both of the playstyles work, but I personally and many top Korean Sharpshooter players prefer running the burst playstyle. It is mechanically more harder as you need to have proper rotation, and knowing boss mechanics and attacks will help you in knowing when you can do the most damage. I have tested out both of the playstyles in training grounds with full 6 level 3 engravings: Deathstrike, Loyal Companion, Grudge, Keen Blunt Weapon, Hitmaster and Cursed Doll. For the sustained playstyle, I also use Swiftness as a secondary compared to Specialization for burst playstyle, and I replace Deadly Slash with Arrow Shower. On average, when you activate your Hawk meter, it depletes on its own after around 3 minutes. So I used those 3 minutes to DPS with both playstyles, and a burst playstyle did around 3 to 5% more damage than the other playstyle. And on top of that, the main problem currently with the sustained playstyle is mana. After about 1 minute of DPSing with the sustained playstyle, I completely ran out of mana and had a lot of downtime waiting for mana to regen, while with the burst playstyle mana issues came after 2 minutes. In the future, there will be gear sets that will provide you with mana consumption reduction and mana regen, but this will favor the burst playstyle even more, as in the future you will have even less cooldown, so the downtime will be much shorter, which in turn means you will be able to do burst rotation even more often. Also keep in mind that in a real boss fight, you will always have to be on the move, which benefits mana regen for burst playstyle even more, as this adds additional downtime for your mana to regen, where with the sustained playstyle you can DPS while moving and dodging, which keeps mana problem the same. Overall, both of the playstyles will work and they are both great. Burst one is more oriented on timing and knowing when to DPS, while sustained playstyle has no rotation, it is more easy and forgiving to play. Lastly, for the sake of the video and mentioning it, you can also go for a loyal companion only build and playstyle. This playstyle requires high movement speed and cooldown reduction, which you get from running swiftness as a primary stat and crit as a secondary stat on your necklace. For the engravings you're running the same 5, Loyal Companion, Grudge, Keen Blunt Weapon, Cursed Doll and Hitmaster, and for the last one you replace Deathstrike with Raid Captain, which increases your damage based on the percentage of your movement speed. This playstyle is for the people who like high octane and fast skill usage, but keep in mind that this will drain your mana even faster. It uses the same skill and has no rotation as the sustained playstyle mentioned before. Skill build and tripods stay the same, where you change few runes to add mana reduction on skill usage to help with mana problems this build has. Overall, this build and playstyle does even less damage than the other two, but you are more faster and agile, which could suit certain types of players. Hopefully this covers everything that is important for PvE Sharpshooter. In case I missed something or you have any questions regarding Sharpshooter, shoot them in the comments, I'll gladly answer it there. Or for a more faster response, you can ask them while I'm live streaming on Twitch. This video took quite long to make than originally planned, but hopefully it helps you understand and pick a playstyle you like. If you want to see a Sharpshooter in action at tier 3, feel free to stop by my Twitch. I stream every day from 5 PM CET. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe and turn the notifications on, as more educational content is on its way. Thank you for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.